Yes, what is up, everybody? Happy Monday post Western States 100 2017. Pretty exciting weekend. The event of
Did something happen this weekend?
a little something called the Western States 100 took place this past weekend. Unfortunately, Kim and I could not be there present. The goal was to be there, but we just moved. As you can tell, our backdrop is semi put together. We had this last week, and some viewers were like, "What's with the blue spots?" They're marking future locations of cool stuff to go in the background. So we've relocated, and unfortunately the relocation didn't coordinate with Western States. I'm surprised Western States wasn't moved for us. Why they didn't move it a week, I don't know. A lot took place this weekend at the event. We're going to talk all about it tonight because we are joined by the man that completed this race faster than anyone else out there on Saturday, and it sounds like it was an insane race. The conditions were intense, super hot, all that good stuff. We are joined by Ryan Sands tonight. Can't wait to talk to him, find out what happened, what went down at Western States 100. So we'll get to that in just a second. Welcome, everyone, to GingerRun Live, episode number 169. The show begins now. Ginger Runner. Yeah, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 169. Thank you for taking the time out of your Monday to spend it with us. And I realize I just opened our beer tonight inside the microphone, so you probably got a good dose of it. Real live experience.
So everybody's already given us a little bit of flack for our blue tape, which we just talked about. People are like, "What have you guys been doing all week?"
You would be surprised at how much time moving actually takes out of your soul and out of your everyday.
It's been a busy week.
It's been an incredibly busy week.
It may not look like it.
So we apologize that the blue tape hasn't been removed from the set and the set hasn't been built in the last 7 days. But tonight, big show. We are joined by an extra special guest. This is a guest that, in my mind, when I started Ginger Runner Live, I was like, "Oh, here are the 5 gold guests." Ryan Sands was easily in that 5 because he's a legend in the sport, a South African trail runner sponsored by Solomon, Red Bull. I mean, he's baller. Let's just say he's baller. Wins some of the biggest events across the globe, has competed in just a smorgasbord of disciplines. And the fact that we have him on tonight's show is very fortuitous because about 2 days ago, I don't even know if time means anything to him right now. He just finished Western States 100 in first place. Absolutely nailed it. And this is his 5th attempt. And so to see him cross the finish line first, well, over the live stream, was an incredible thing. So we are joined by Mr. Ryan Sands.
Yay!
Hey, guys. Thanks. Yeah, great to be on the show, finally.
Finally. I'm so sorry for the long intro. I'm so sorry. How are you feeling? First of all, this first question has to happen. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty stoked. Geez, I think crossing the finish line, it was such a brutal day out that I was more a relief than anything else. And I think I was so tired that, I think it only really sank in when Craig gave me the Cougar trophy yesterday afternoon. I was like, flip, I've actually done this. Like you mentioned, it's been like quite a long journey for me to get there. Like I've had a lot of good moments in Western States, but also some pretty bad ones, like waking up the day before the race with a stomach bug, etc. So yeah, it was really cool to finally get that Cougar trophy.
This is something I've always wondered, and I think some of our previous guests who have brought home Cougar trophies, I don't think I had the actual opportunity to ask, but are you currently in possession of the Cougar, or is it one of those like, "Hey, hold this for an hour and then we'll take it back and we'll send it to you"?
Yeah, they were going to send it to me, but I refused to leave until they gave it to me. No, just sending it back to South Africa because they wanted to get it engraved first. It's just going to be a nightmare. So I've kind of actually got it here, but it's all bubble wrap.
That's awesome.
So pretty stoked. I've always wanted that trophy. Since I saw Timmy hold it up in 2012, and I came second. So yeah, it was cool to finally cross the finish line in first place.
Our recommendation is to grab a giant chain, attach it to the chain, and wear it around your neck. I think you get right through airport security with that.
Yeah, and I'm a bit worried about how I'm going to get that home, but yeah, I'll worry about that on Wednesday when I have to fly.
Yeah, don't even sweat that. You've got some celebrating to do. Before we get too deep in with Ryan Sands right off the bat, I want to remind everyone that we are joined also by lovely Kim.
And as usual, you guys, I am in the chat room. So if you have questions for our guest Ryan tonight, just ask them in the chat room. The chat room is already very busy, mostly talking about the blue tape at this moment. But if you ask a question, it doesn't get answered, just please ask it again. But remember that it does tend to get a little busy.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get busy tonight with Ryan because it's the first time we've had him on the show, and he's kind of an epic guest. So get those questions, keep rapid firing them if Kim doesn't see them right off the bat. But we're going to try to get to as many live questions, much like we did last week with Walmsley. So we'll try to get to as many of those during the live show as possible. And then we also have the post show for those of you who support on Patreon. Before we, again, get in with Ryan Sands, I want to make sure that we mention everyone in the top 10, both male and female. We talked to Kat Bradley very briefly over the weekend. She apparently has no voice. She's like, I have no voice. So she was going to join us tonight, but she can't talk. We'll hopefully get her on a show maybe next Monday. We're going to try to work out scheduling and stuff like that. But a big shout out to Kat Bradley. What an incredible debut at the distance and on such a big platform, big stage.
Such a young age.
Such a young age. So just going down the top 10 for women, Kat Bradley finished in first. Magdalena Boulet finished in second. We've had her on the show before. Huge, very patient and steady. An incredible performance. Sabrina Stanley, Caitlin Gerbin, Fiona Hayvice, Nicole, I'm always going to get this wrong, Nicole Caligaropoulos, Jackie Merritt, also going to get this one wrong, Ildiko Vermecher, Megan Laws, and Andrea Huser. Those are the top 10 women.
And obviously, Kat had an amazing race, and it's always really fun to watch Magda. I wanted to give a special shout out. Ethan said her name in the chat room. Caitlin Gerbin, local woman here too. Now
to us here in Seattle. She's a local runner and just absolutely nailed the race. Did you say she's in the chat room?
No.
Oh, but in the list here,
Yeah.
And going down the men's list, I feel like we have lots to say about these guys, but because we have Ryan, we're going to get to Ryan. In 10th place, Kyle Pietari, Paul Giblin in 9th, Jesse Haynes, who we've had on the show before. I love Jesse. 8th place, Ian Sharman, total pro. This guy is nailing this distance and this race year after year. In 7th place, Avery Collins. Nice to see him pop in the top 10 at 6th. Chris Danucci, a friend of ours and a favorite of ours, Danucci. In at 5th place, Jeff Browning, solid. One of the guys that's like, man, everyone strives to be like Jeff Browning, and we knew he was going to do something incredible, which he did. 4th place, Mark Hammond in 3rd, Alex Nichols in 2nd, and we are joined by the first place female, first place male, Mr. Ryan Sands. Okay, Ryan, I don't want you to sit patiently for much longer here. Let's talk about, you mentioned that you ran in 2012, second place to Timmy Olsen during that big course record year. It was super hot, so you're familiar with the heat at Western States. You're familiar with what it's like to chase down someone who's going after a course record. For this weekend, did it feel different at all? Was it a different experience for you, or did you have a different mindset going into this year's?
Shit, yeah, this year was definitely like completely different to any of the other Western States I've run. Just I think the snow, like to start off with for the first 20 or 25 miles was just I think it made things like really slow going, and I think a lot of guys up front used up a lot of energy to get through the snow. And then obviously if anyone was going for a time or looking at their watches, you suddenly realize, I think I came into Duncan Canyon about 35 minutes or 40 minutes off like the current course record. So I don't think even Jim was on course record by then. It just goes to show, I could be wrong, but I think it just goes to show how difficult the first stretch was. And then just the heat in like the second half of the race was pretty brutal. So I'd definitely say it's like the hardest Western States I've run. I think in 2012, we're lucky the conditions were fairly cool. So that felt a lot easier, and maybe because it's 5 years ago, I've kind of forgotten about all the pain and suffering there. And then 2014 when I ran, it wasn't quite as hot then as what it was this year. So for me it was pretty brutal out there. It was weird, like every time I thought I was getting on top of things, it almost just felt like something like Western States would throw like another curveball to get another punch in the face, and kind of feel like you're going backwards. So yeah, it was definitely a tough day out, but yeah, I suppose really rewarding, and being able to run in first place from just before the river onwards was, yeah, really cool. But also, I won't lie, kind of 2012 went through my head again, and I was like, flip, don't let anyone pass me. And I know, like, getting to the river, Alex Nicholas was he was pretty close. So yeah, I knew it was going to be a really hard race.
I mean, as a spectator, and even as a spectator, only really being able to follow Twitter, which it's crazy that that's how we're getting the updates, but it's the only like legitimate way to get solid updates. It was riveting. It was riveting to see this play out. You taking over at the river, but then also being chased down by Alex, and we saw the gaps get a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. Mm-hmm. Do you, when you're out there and you are in the position, let's say at the river, where you are now realizing you're in first place, are you getting updates from your crew at that point? Or are you just by feel knowing you have to push at a certain level just to try to maintain that lead? Do you not even care what's going on behind you?
Yes. Sorry, you just broke up slightly, so can you repeat the second half of the question?
Sure. When you're leaving the river, are you paying attention to what your crew is telling you, or are you just trying to not focus on what's happening behind you being chased?
Yeah, I think just to kind of go through the whole thing, obviously, I passed Jim with about 4 or 5 Ks to go to the river, and obviously instantly flip, I'm leading Western States and got a massive kind of boost and kind of second wind, or kind of felt really good. And then, like, kind of that wore off after about 2 Ks, and I still had about 3 Ks to get to the river, and it's like a super hot patch. It was just really hot. I didn't have any water, so I got to the river like feeling pretty out of it, but I knew I just had to keep like moving as quick as possible. So I got into the boat and got to the other side, and there was kind of obviously Brian was there from Iron, found quite a few guys, and to be honest, I was actually going to go and I was thinking of dipping in the river, but then I was worried that I was going to cramp up, and then obviously that they would have told Alex that I wasn't looking so good. So I tried to put on a bit of a poker face and just get around to the start of the Green Gate climb, and then my pacer picked me up from there, or at the top of Green Gate. But I really had to regroup at Green Gate, and to be honest, that was definitely the low point of the race for me. I think like mentally, I kind of lost a little bit there, and I definitely was kind of running pretty scared for a good 5 or 8 Ks afterwards, because I thought Alex was catching me, and then I was also quite worried because I heard from my crew that kind of 2nd to 8th or 9th was like really close. I was like, flip, you can go from leading Western States with 20-30 miles to go to kind of finishing out the top 10 if you blow up. And it was that kind of a day where it was that hot that if kind of things go wrong, they would go properly wrong. So I was definitely running scared, but I think luckily I didn't have a pacer from Forest Hill to Green Gate, and Reno, my friend back from South Africa, who paced me, he knows me really well, and he did a great job. He kind of really pushed me pretty hard from Green Gate to Pointed Rocks, where I think I managed to make up a bit more time on Alex. And then also, like, every creek I ran through, I'd basically just drop into there to try and cool off, because I felt like really hot the whole day.
I mean, that actually dovetails nicely into, I think, the next question I'm going to ask, and then we'll go to some of the live questions, because I think, Kim, you've already pulled a bunch aside here. Yeah. I just want to talk about strategy. So you knew it was going to be hot. You knew that there was going to be snow in the high country. I know you had been up in Squaw for a couple of days. You've been filming with Dean Leslie and stuff like that. Yeah. Did you have a strategy going into this race, being a seasoned ultra runner and knowing that there are guys that were going to run this race? We had Walmsley on last week who had talked about going for the course record, doing whatever it takes in those sort of conditions. Yeah. Did you have a strategy to be patient or chase, or going into it, did you have any sort of direction that you wanted to take?
Yeah, I think generally, like, my race strategies on the race I've run in the past, I generally come from behind, and I felt I feel sometimes that maybe I leave like too much for too late in the race, and I realized Jim was going to go out really hard, and if Jim had his day and kind of went 14 flat or just over 14, there was no ways I was going to be anywhere close to him in those kind of conditions. So yeah, I wasn't too concerned about Jim. I knew it was kind of, he was either going to have a magical day or kind of come unstuck a bit later on in the race. But I definitely wanted to be up there, so in case that when there was kind of carnage, that you could kind of run through it and not have too much to do. So I definitely kind of, I think, had a better start than I have had in the past and in a number of kind of 100 milers. So I was pretty chuffed with that. But before the race, I think kind of subconsciously I knew what I wanted to do, but I try to just stay as relaxed as possible and not overthink it. I just know with like a race, you can have, especially 100 miles, you can have so many different plans, and like half the time it never turns out that way on the day. So I've realized just to really try and chill out as much as possible, and just try and be as calm and relaxed. I think at the start, we started and probably ran maybe 20 meters next to Jim and managed to ask him if he was still going for the kind of 14 flat, and he said, yeah, baby. So I knew from when as soon as he said that, I knew he was like either going to, as I said, do something completely magical, or it was going to go up in flames. And kind of lucky for me, he came a little bit unstuck. But geez, I spoke to him afterwards and said, big respect. He's got big balls to still try and go out like 14 flats in those conditions, because yeah, it was definitely really slow going to start off with, and then yeah, the heat was pretty brutal.
Yeah, that's interesting to kind of hear that side of the strategy of him, Walmsley, being so verbal about what his goals were and so out there that really kind of sets the tone for everyone else of whether, yeah, that I'm never going to be able to do that pace in those sort of conditions. So I'm just going to hang tight and do what I need to do, which is exactly what ended up happening. And, you know, Ryan Sands takes the victory. We have tons of live viewers and many, many questions to get to. So let's get to some of those. Kim, go for it.
And we actually do have Caitlin in the chat room as well.
I thought so. Caitlin, shout out to Caitlin. Awesome.
And actually our first question will be from Caitlin tonight. So Caitlin asks, Ryan, how did you change your race strategy after seeing conditions in the high country?
Yeah, I didn't change too much of my strategy. I just kind of, I guess, or maybe I definitely like worked a little bit harder to start off with, because I think in the high country, like I didn't want to get stuck too far behind, because I think you can lose a lot of time in the snow. So I was a lot more focused earlier on, and kind of like had a goal that I wanted to try and get to Duncan Canyon, not as quick as possible, but I wanted to get there like in good time. I didn't want to dawdle too much in the high country. So I don't think it changed too much. And to be honest, I didn't think there was going to be that much snow up there. When they told me there was snow up there, I thought, cool, it'll be a little bit. I'd run up Squaw Valley, so I realized there was quite a bit of snow at the top, but I thought kind of going over the other side, cool, it'll clear off and be pretty runnable. But yeah, I was definitely a little bit wrong.
I mean, that's a huge surprise to me too. All the reports leading up to the race and people doing training runs and stuff, I knew that there was going to be a little snow at the top of the escarpment, but on the backside, I was like, oh, I bet it's kind of mellows out. You said it's the first 25 miles or so that had some sort of snow?
Yeah, it must have been, maybe it was 20 miles. So I get my miles and kilometers mixed up.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a lot of snow. It was weird, like you would have snow and then it would be clear for a bit, and then you'd hit more snow. And just you had to like concentrate a lot, because there were a lot of kind of those ice bridges or whatever, like you just keep like breaking through. I fell a couple of times pretty hard, nearly lost one of my shoes as well, because it got quite muddy as well and like boggy. So a couple of times. So you had to really be pretty alert and not kind of make too many mistakes.
There's a lot of really great race reports coming out from front of the Packers, mid-pack, even back of the Packers, while everyone begins to recover. Obviously, more reports will come out in the coming weeks, but there's some great accounts of what was going on in the high country. Casey Lichtai, also a previous guest of the show, she might also be watching tonight, but she just posted, I believe, today about some of her recaps, and she talked about the mud. And it came up to her knees or waist or something. I mean, was it super deep in spots?
Yeah, like I said, like you almost had to concentrate. There was once or twice where you kind of lost a bit of concentration and put my foot in the wrong place, and then you suddenly kind of sink up to your knee in mud, and it's like quite a suction when you pull your foot back out again. So it was pretty gnarly in places, and then also combine that with the snow, it was definitely made for some slow going at the start.
I'm curious, just kind of going to your history with races and the like. You've done incredible amounts of different disciplines, whether it's desert racing, mountain high altitude, super technical Euro races, or something like Western States. For you, is Western States something you look forward to running because you can rip out speed, or is it something you look forward to running because it's just different? The heat isn't a huge element in it. Is there something about this race that speaks to you differently than the other races that you're running?
Yeah, there's definitely like something really special about the Western States. I think being the original 100 miler, and I've like always been attracted to races like that. Just seeing so many legends that have run the race. So I really enjoy that element of it, and also just the local community. When I first came in 2012, I've met so many people, and it's just really, really cool. I love the fact that I think there are 350 races, but they're like 1,800 volunteers, and I've heard reports of that's actually even double. So it's very cool how like the kind of core community gets involved in the race, and I think it makes it really unique. And then the race itself, it's obviously really tough and brutal, but I enjoy the course. I think it suits me. Like you mentioned, I came from almost a desert running background. I don't mind running in the heat, and also just the gradients. I quite enjoy that. I must say, training for Western States, I find it quite difficult, just in the sense it's a lot of structure. I kind of generally prefer getting more out into the mountains and doing a bit more kind of free and kind of loose training. But I guess it's good to kind of mix it up a bit as well.
Nice. Tons of live questions.
Tons,
Kim.
yeah.
Kim.
Pete Kresak in the chat room asks, how difficult was it to run through the snow compared to the other years you've run? Was the heat any different than previous times you've run?
Yeah, it's the first time I've run through snow on the course. I think in 2012 we had that really cold year. I remember, and that was actually pretty tough in the high country, because I remember running along and I was actually freezing. I didn't have a jacket or anything. I couldn't even grip my water bottles. It was so cold, or kind of get nutrition out of my pocket. So that was tough. But I think this year, the heat was it was pretty brutal. It was weird though. I'd almost hit like pockets of hot air at times, or like pockets of like humid air. You just kind of feel like you can't breathe. I remember coming down from Devil's Thumb, and then the aid station at the bottom of the canyon before you go up to Michigan Bluff, and for the first 2Ks going out of there, just felt like so hot and humid. I was just almost like I was suffocating. And then, as I mentioned, along the river it got really, really hot at times. So I definitely think out of the 3 Western States I've run, this was definitely the hardest by a long way.
Wow. I know that we have a lot of viewers who are either new to ultras or maybe considering running 100 miles for the first time, or some of them are seasoned 100-miler runners who have done it many, many times. I, for one, have run 100, and it was the opposite of hot. And I'm scared of hot races because every time I run one, I blow up. I melt. Literally, I melt. I finish, but it's never a pleasant experience. But I want to run states someday. So Ryan, do you have advice for people of all abilities of how to deal with heat? Because you are like the professional heat guy.
I think, or like I was actually, as you were mentioning that, I was just thinking, I think on race day also, like I put a lot of emphasis on at the aid stations to cool down. Actually designed a little like ice cap with the guys from Salomon. Also using ice buff, ice sleeves, and like I said, I maybe took a kind of extra 30 seconds at some of the aid stations, maybe a bit longer, but really worked on trying to cool myself down and just kind of keep my core temperature down. And I think that's the best way to manage the heat on race day, and that definitely helped. I think maybe you can get away with it for 50 Ks or so, but like just with Western States being such a long day, it just catches up to you. And kind of, I've found like in the, especially when it's really hot, if you kind of keep pushing yourself, kind of, if you go past that point of no return, when it's hot, there's definitely no return. Like you just completely bomb out. So I've learned that. And I think just generally, like building up to Western States, they're definitely the kind of usual tricks you can do. If possible, trying to kind of run midday or run with a jacket on, or even do some sauna training. But I've done a bit of research on that, and I think like a lot of the sauna training and stuff you can kind of do 2 weeks out from the race. I don't think you need to overdo it. And then also I think just like mentally, I think a lot of people think like as soon as it's hot they just start freaking out, and you like flip, it's going to be so tough, and then it's going to be tough. You'd like, oh, it's going to be tough anyway. But if you like already go into it like in like a mental back foot, then you're just making it 10 times worse for yourself. And I guess it kind of helps me. I knew when I was out there, even when I was running with my pacer Rainer, he kept telling me like, you're really good at running in the heat. If you're taking strain, everyone else is taking even more strain. So I think that helps. And even as you say, for the everyday person, I would just say like, obviously try and prepare as well as possible. But also I think that your mental attitude, like you just got to kind of accept the heat and not panic and kind of freak out about it. Otherwise it just makes it 10 times worse.
And I think I've learned from that experience, because that tends to be what I do every time it gets hot. Oh my God, it's hot. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. So I think that's good advice. I think that's good advice for people. Do you think training in South Africa has a benefit in that respect? I mean, do you deal with heat for a majority of the year? I've never been. I've always wanted to go. But with the conditions there, do they replicate anything come race day?
Yeah, it definitely helps. Like I live down in Cape Town, so obviously we're going into winter now, so it was getting a bit cooler, but our winters are generally pretty mild. So I've been able to do some decent training, but yeah, I guess our summers are really hot, and as I say, growing up there, like I've generally been used to fairly warm conditions. So it's definitely does help. Like in Cape Town, you don't get anything really close to freezing. Probably a cold day in winter is about like 12-13 degrees Celsius, which I'm not too sure.
Kim might be able to do that.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I can't do the conversion, but I do understand Celsius better than I understand Fahrenheit.
Yeah, a Canadian here, so she's part of the imperial system. So she's probably like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. Meanwhile, I'm doing the math in my head, and it's
Cold, hot.
I think it's 57 degrees. I don't think that's accurate, but let's get to a live question from one of our viewers, because we got tons. Go for it, Kim.
Yeah, a question from Aslan in the chat room. Ryan, how has having a family and a child changed the way you train?
Great question.
Yeah, it's definitely made a big difference. Like, I guess being completely honest, I think when like the first like thought of having a baby, like I was worried that, or having a child, I was worried that like my training would take a back seat at times, and like having a newborn baby, you don't get a hell of a lot of sleep at times. But yeah, I think my wife Vanessa has been great like that, letting me sleep in the spare room at times. But I think most importantly, like for me, having a child has definitely kind of chilled me out a lot more. Like with like obviously I'm a professional athlete, and racing is important to me, and it's my livelihood and what I do. But at the end of the day, it's just a race. Like there's so many things I can't control about a race. Like, and I really try to just chill out a lot more over the past 9 or 12 months, and not overthink things. And just even like when I spoke, like we chatted about race strategies, I've just tried to be a lot more, kind of have an idea of what I want to do, but be a lot more relaxed and not kind of fixate over the end goal. Like I think at times like it gets so focused on flip, I want to win this race, I want to get a podium, and then you start off the race and things aren't going well, and you completely panic and almost freak out. Or that's what's happened to me in the past. So yeah, I definitely think it's kind of calmed me down and relaxed me a lot more. And yeah, having like Max, my son, there on Saturday was pretty cool, being able to see him at 1 or 2 aid stations. I don't think he knew what the hell was going on, but yeah, it was cool for me to see him. And then yeah, to have him at the finish was very cool. I think a lot of people made a couple of jokes. He crossed the finish line before
First.
me.
Yeah, sorry. You didn't win. Your son won.
I think actually, Dean Leslie.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was giving me a hard time saying Max's finished photo got more retweets than mine. So, no, but
cute.
Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah. So, no, as I say, like, yeah, I think it's definitely like chilled me out a lot more, and it's been good. Yeah, I just think there's so many like uncontrollables, and you kind of can't control them all. And I guess sometimes as a professional athlete or even ultra runners, you want to try and be super rigid and control everything, which sometimes doesn't always work out.
I think that's a great message, because I think it's common amongst, we've had Jesse Haynes, Jeff Browning, Ian Sharman on the show. We've talked to them about those same sort of things, about what does it take to be patient, and just the benefit of being patient in this sort of scenario. Because you look at a race like Western States, where there are young guns coming out and they're clobbering it, they're crushing it, by all means. But you also see guys who are seasoned and professional, and women, of course, just being patient. And they might start the first 30 miles in 12th place, 15th place, 30th place even. But you'll see them slowly just chip away. And they know that all they have to do is be consistent and be smart and be patient and be flexible, like Ryan's talking about. I mean, look at the results. This is pretty great to hear. Let's get to another live question while we got Ryan.
Yeah, there's a question from I Do This for Fun. Question. What does running mean to you, Ryan? Why do you do it?
Yeah, I think,
let's get deep.
Put me on the spot. No, yeah, like running has been a life-changing experience for me. I think people that don't know my story, I only really started running last year at university, and it was more just an excuse to go and run a marathon and have a party. And yeah, that's kind of running the marathon kind of really kind of changed me a lot, and kind of one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I was running ultras. So and then going from there, kind of quitting my 9-to-5 job and becoming a fully professional athlete, and being able to run on all 7 continents over the past 8 or 9 years, and travel the world and do what I love doing. It's, yeah, as I said, it means like everything to me, and it's been like such a cool and awesome experience. And I think it's not just obviously not just the racing. I love the whole adventure aspect of running. So being able to do like free running projects and just traveling in general, and meeting lots of cool people. Like I said, I think a major draw card for me to come back to Western States every year is the running community there, and how like everyone gets involved. So yeah, I think running's like been pretty cool. Like and also like no disrespect to schools or universities, but I think my running over the past 8 years has taught me way more than what being at school or university taught me for being there for 16 years. So yeah, it's definitely something very, very cool.
Nice. I want to get to one more live question from our viewers, while Kim then goes to grab my charger on my laptop, because I realize it's not plugged in.
Yeah, a great question from Raul in the chat room. Question for Ryan. What did Western States mean to you back in 2012, and how has that changed to now? Yeah,
after running the Western States 5 different times, how does this, I mean, obviously the win has to mean a lot, but how was this year mean something a little bit different to you?
Yeah, I think going into Western States 2012, it was my first time running the race, and I didn't quite know what to expect. I knew it was obviously a really prestigious race, and it was a race I really wanted to win. But when coming second there in 2012, it was like awesome. But I think just kind of my whole journey from 2012 to 2015, like really, really wanting to win Western States. And at times, like I mentioned, when I got stomach bug the day before Western States in 2015, I'd kind of, when I left the States, I was like, cool, that's Western States done. It's just not meant to be. And then missing it last year, and then realizing how much like the race actually meant to me, and how much like, if there was one race I could choose to win, it would be Western States. So it's been like quite an awesome journey. And then to kind of finally pull off that win on Saturday is pretty epic. Like, as I say, I don't think it's really sunken in properly. Like, still feeling a little bit I'm tired and jaded from it, but like I say, it's just been like a whole like evolution, like a whole process. Like I say, with so many ups and downs, and then to be able to share that with so many good friends, having Rainer out there on Saturday, Dean as well, who was filming, but I've done a lot of stuff with him and Ian and some of the guys that all came down, and also my wife, baby, and my mom there, like, just made it like I couldn't have scripted a story better. So just really stoked and grateful.
Coming from projects like the Drakensberg or Drakensberg, I think it's
Drakensberg,
yeah, Drakensberg Traverse. I mean, that was one of the first videos that I've ever watched of you doing this incredible thing a couple years ago. Go check it out if you guys haven't already seen it. But the Drakensberg Grand Traverse that Ryan did many years ago. Coming from something like that, and over the years racing a ton, and of course being at States years before that, does this kind of put a giant cherry on top? I mean, do you have other projects in the works? Do you have goals beyond Western States? Was this kind of like a nice feather in the hat, I guess? And from here on out, is it like, oh, racing's going to take a backseat now, I can just adventure, or kind of where does this place amongst your resume?
Yeah, or like, I think Western States is huge. It's definitely kind of like my biggest race win, or it's something I think I've worked the hardest for. Like, as I said, it's been a kind of a 5-year dream. So it's definitely big for me. I think racing wise, it's still like, I definitely think I'll be back at Western States next year.
Sweet.
I've had two starts at UTMB and 2 DNF, so I wouldn't mind kind of getting a finish there. I think that's a goal. And also like a race like Grand Raider Reunion. I ran it last year, but I'd love to run it again. So I think I definitely kind of preferring the 100-mile races, and there are probably less and less races that appeal to me now. I think I'm quite picky in some ways, but and then going on to like kind of the free running projects, I'm definitely like working on 1 or 2 projects. I just can't say too much yet, but hopefully I've been chatting to the guys from Red Bull, just trying to do a little bit more convincing, but trying to line up a big project for either early next year or towards the end of next year. So if I can pull that off, it'd be pretty exciting. So like I said, I definitely like to mix it up. I think I've been racing for a good like 9+ years now, and I think for me it's important to spread the racing out a little bit. Just with I got glandular fever or mononucleosis in 2015, just from, I think, doing way too much. So I think it's important to try and, or for me, I know like I do better on racing a little bit less, and kind of adding a little bit more variety and some free running projects, and just looking after my body. I think definitely like since having Max, I think I've been enjoying my racing like that much more, and I definitely like want to race as long as possible and enjoy it as much as possible. So being able to spread it out a little bit more is a good thing. But like, as I say, there's definitely more races that I'd like to do, and I definitely want to come back to Western States next year.
Awesome. That's good to hear. I know that question popped up a lot in the chat room, as did probably our last live question, but people talking about nutrition. Do you have one there pulled aside regarding that? Because people were like,
that was one of the very first questions.
Yeah, so let's make sure we get that one.
What did you eat during the race? What kind of nutrition were you doing on race day?
I think because it was so hot, I used a lot of my own goo gels and chomps, and then also at the aid stations I took some of the Cliff Bar chomps and gels as well, and then also drank some Red Bull and water along the way. Just like I mixed it 50-50. Just it was just too hot for me to get in any solids. I tried to get down a bit of a muscle milk at one stage to try and get in like just something a little bit different to all the gels and sweet stuff, but that just didn't sit properly. So as I say, I haven't craved anything sweet since the race. I got in a lot of sugar and calories on the day, but I'm lucky. Generally, I've got quite a tough stomach, so like I think a lot of like Western States, especially after the river. It's just about keeping on going and kind of conserving energy and just trying to get down as many like calories as possible. But like stuff that you can get down. So obviously the kind of all the aid stations are obviously a big help, and just kind of getting down as many gels and chomps and stuff as possible.
We talked, we heard lots of stories from a lot of the elites, men and women, talking about some of their lows, and a lot of the like the top 3 women who, women who have won in the past who had really rough days on Saturday, talked about some of their lows and some of the lowest lows that they've ever experienced in a race. Did you have any severe lows during this race? If so, when did it usually occur, and how did you manage to get out?
Yeah, I definitely had a couple of, I think, I would say probably just after Devil's Thumb, just going down, just before climbing up to Michigan Bluff, where it was really hot for about 2Ks. I had a bit of a low patch there. Also just kind of felt completely depleted of energy. I think because it gets so hot, your stomach can't really like absorb any of the nutrients or nutrition. But then luckily it was weird, like as I ran into like an open bit of sunlight, I thought, flip, now it's going to be even hotter, and just there was just more like wind, and luckily I managed to kind of get through that. But also running along the river, there were 1 or 2 patches where it was more just I felt like suddenly like I'd feel not great, but I'd feel good, and then the next minute I just felt completely smashed by the heat. So that was tough. And then I definitely say my lowest moment of the race was definitely after getting out the boat on the other side of Rocky Chucky River and getting up to Green Gate, just both physically and mentally. I thought I had nothing left in my legs. I was a little bit worried, and then luckily I managed to get my core temperature down by jumping in a few creeks off the Green Gate, and that definitely helped a lot. And like I said, I think picking up a pace and just having someone kind of talk you through it, because this year, the previous 2 years that I'd run Western States, I used a pacer from Forest Hill, and this year I decided just to use a pacer from Green Gate, which I don't know or next year I might really look at that again. I think it definitely helps to have a pacer. Even just going through the aid stations and stuff to have that extra help definitely helps.
Yeah, and having so much experience in ultra, and probably having experienced low moments in almost every race that you've run, especially like mental ones, do you, every time you get into a mental low, do you just know that it will pass, or do you have any sort of strategy to dig yourself out when it comes to the mental things? Or do you, because we had runners on the show in the past where it's like, oh, I always can identify a mental low as being a calorie low, and then they always remedy it with some sort of calorie thing.
Yeah, I definitely try and get in calories, but I think that I think you always will get through those low moments. But I guess some of them last pretty long and can be quite difficult. And I think for me it's always just trying to break it up into mini goals. I definitely try and focus, like especially a race like Western States, and just getting to the next aid station, and almost just telling myself the race is just to the aid station, and then after that it's a new race. And I think it helps me sometimes because you come into an aid station feeling terrible, and you say, cool, I've done that, I've ticked that off, it's a fresh start now, and you kind of get in some calories, cool down a little bit, and you go off again, and you definitely feel a lot better. So like I mentioned earlier, sometimes I maybe took a little bit more time in the aid stations, but I think giving up 5 or so minutes to kind of look after yourself definitely kind of works out, because I know like the final 20 miles, if you lose it there, you can lose so much time. And I think like, or kind of when I had that really low moment coming up to Green Gate, I think definitely just having someone else there like talk me through it definitely kind of helped a lot. Like if I'm completely honest with myself, I think I lost it a little bit there mentally, or I'll just like it wasn't in a good space. Like I just didn't feel like I had anything more I can give, or I could give. But I suppose also it's just about trying to stay positive and not getting too serious about things. Like sometimes you have to take the piss a little bit and not like get too serious. Like you're the idiot that wants to be out there, or like I was the idiot that kind of wanted to be out there and run in those kind of conditions. So kind of suck it up and enjoy it. And I suppose also just like, geez, how many people get to run Western States? I saw quite a cool sign just coming down into No Hands Bridge that said Chuck Norris hasn't run Western States, so that was pretty funny to see that.
I'd like to see him try. Chuck Norris doesn't run Western States. Western States runs Chuck Norris. That makes no sense. That's not how it works.
He's watching right now.
I think he is. Yeah, he's in the live audience. Before we wrap up the main interview with Ryan, I want to remind everyone that we do a post show with our guests, and tonight will be a great post show with Ryan Sands. And that is for Patreon supporters. So if you like this show, if you like watching it every Monday, maybe this is your first time, welcome. But we also do films, movies, reviews, all sorts of stuff on this channel, and for as little as $1 a month, which is, I mean, last week I said that 60 cents. That's not true. It's 100 cents. But 100 cents a month basically gets you into our post shows every single Monday with our guests. We get to rapid fire questions with them live, much like you're doing right now, but you actually get through all of the questions before we have to let the guests go. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. That's it. Just go there right now. You can go log in, and if you want to do $1 a month or less, there's no commitment. You can do it for 30 days and then quit. No big deal. But there's different levels, different perks, and we will have Ryan Sands there for a post show here in just a couple of moments. But I want to make sure that we get to at least one or two more live questions while we have him in this main show. So
yeah, lots of great questions. Question from Kimosabi75. Ryan, did you pay any attention to the pre-race predictions from podcasts or chatter from the other competitors?
Good question.
Not too much. I definitely like just chatting to Dean the day before the race. Dean Leslie, who was filming. Like I've known him, grown up with him, so we're pretty open and honest with each other. And he said to me, "Just you're flying pretty much underneath the radar this year." And I was pretty happy with that. I think that it always suits me a lot better just to kind of go out there and do what I want to do and not feel too much pressure. But yeah, I didn't look too much. I definitely I read some of the iRun for previews and the ones out there, but I try to not take too much notice of it. I said didn't try to just kind of focus on what I want to do. I think again, if you kind of get too caught up in all of that, you kind of end up just kind of overthinking things and almost freaking yourself out.
I mean, I think that's just being a seasoned elite like Ryan. I mean, I'm like, of course Ryan didn't really pay attention. He had a job to do, and that didn't involve, getting caught up in that. That's great. Let's go ahead and do one more live question, and then we're going to do our quickie question quiz with Ryan, which is my top set of 10 predetermined questions that we do with all of our new guests. So go ahead.
Sure. Question from Nathaniel. Ryan, how do you approach racing? Are you analytical? Do you keep spreadsheets or prospective paces, etc., or is it all about feel?
Yeah, I'm definitely more about feel. But as I said, I've been to Western States so many times. I do have a spreadsheet of all the record times. So I do know what the times are at the major aid stations for the record pace, or just what a good pace is. So that for a race like Western States, but generally most other races, I just rather go on feel. I felt in the past when I have tried to kind of focus on pace or go for a specific time, it just really backfires. So I rather just try and go on feel as much as possible.
Awesome. I have to thank Mr. Ryan Sands for joining us tonight. This is a big deal because normally the time difference, I think the show would take place at 3 a.m. Ryan time or something like that, which would be terrible if I were Ryan, wake up at 3 a.m. Let's do the show. So a huge thank you, Ryan, for joining us on tonight's episode.
Thank you. Thanks so much for chatting and all the support.
Absolutely. We're big fans of you. Your family's beautiful. We can't wait to see what you do next. And your dog, really cute. We're big dog fans on the show. Our dog, you probably heard his chain all night because he's been shaking his catch, please. But of course, before we move into the post show with Ryan, we have to find out his social media. So where can people find you on social media, Ryan?
Social media, I'm on Instagram, Ryan Sands, Facebook, also Ryan Sands, and then also Twitter, Ryan Sands. So pretty straightforward, and it's Sands with Sandes. So it's the ES at the end.
So make sure you go follow him across social media and give him some love. Thank him for being on the show, because this was a really cool thing to happen, and we're honored to have him on the show, and this is great.
Yeah, we've been wanting you on the show for so
so long, and it's just like logistic. I'm not even going to bother because he's in South Africa, and he probably has people and that sort of thing. And we apologize for the set having blue tape. This isn't our normal set. I'm so sorry, Ryan. I'm so sorry.
Cool.
It's terrible. So before we move into the post-show round, we do a thing here with all new guests on the show. It's the same list of questions. They're very easy. All you have to do is just answer with the first thing that comes to mind. It's a rapid-fire quickie question quiz. You let me know when you're ready, and I'll just rip through them.
Cool. Go for it.
What was your very first race?
Neisner Marathon.
Favorite running movie?
Cheapers. Put me on the Bull Duper Superfan.
Trails or road?
Trails.
Favorite place to run?
Patagonia.
What's a bucket list race?
Western States.
Nice. And you won it. That's freaking awesome. Guilty pleasure TV show. This might be different because South Africa might have some different stuff.
Yeah. Geez, what is trying to think of the last episode with Pablo Escobar.
What would we just watch that too?
Not Narcos or
Narcos. Isn't it Narcos?
Not, is it? I don't know, about 3 seasons. It was on Netflix.
I think it is Narcos.
I think it is Narcos.
Yeah,
I think that is the correct answer. What's your favorite pre-race meal?
Hamburger.
And your favorite post-race indulgence? So what is the first thing that you indulged in after winning Western States?
They wouldn't with the drug testing. They wouldn't let me even have a beer until I could pee in the cup. So I just had some water after the race. But generally I suppose it's I was really look forward to that first beer. And then I didn't have much of an appetite, so didn't really eat too much.
Actually, there was some other questions with the drug testing this year, since you've run it 5 times. We'll talk about that in the post show, because I have some questions about that, regarding what happened, how did it work, and that sort of thing. So the final question with the quickie question quiz is, everyone wants to know this: what shoes did you run in? What shoes did you rock States?
I ran in a pair of Salomons, but the prototype ones they're basically the Sense Ultra, the new Sense Ultra upper. And then I've got a slightly different midsole in. I just like something a little bit stiffer, and I've got a slightly different grip on it, and then slightly trimmed down.
So they're like sand specials, then something maybe we'll see in the market sometime soon. That's it. You passed. Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
So thank you, everyone, for watching live. Happy Monday. We'll see you every Monday for Ginger Runner Live. If you would like to join us in the post show, we're basically going to right into the post show with Ryan here in just a couple of seconds. If you are on Patreon already, we'll see you in a couple seconds. If you are not, consider it. It basically keeps the show alive, keeps pictures and stuff going onto this wall this week. We're gonna say this week.
All right.
So we can actually make it happen, since some of the other logistics of moving have already taken place. A huge congratulations to our guest tonight, Ryan Sands, for winning Western States 2017.
Thanks so much.
And congratulations to all who participated at this year's race, because there are incredible videos of people from the front, mid, and back of the pack finishing. That golden hour finish is something to behold.
With 8 seconds to spare.
8 seconds to spare. We had someone cross that finish.
I was there. It was crazy.
Was it emotional? Was it pretty awesome?
Yeah, because the lady came around the side of the track or to the finishing straight, and to be honest, I didn't think she was going to make it. And then I don't know, she just got this look in her eyes, and she just powered to the finish line. But it was just really, really incredible, and as you said, pretty emotional.
It's an incredible video to watch. There was a very similar thing that happened with Gunhild a couple of years ago, and if you get a chance, go spectate at Western States. If you get the chance to run it, do not hesitate, obviously. But we'll talk a lot about this in the post show. Thank you guys for tuning in live. We'll see you next week, or we'll see you in a couple of seconds. One of the two. So that's it. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Good night.
Cheers.
Ginger Runner.